I am Ansoy in Harare, where I've been reporting historic events, a moment of change for Zimbabwe. President Robert Mugabe has been in power for 37 years. He is the last of Africa's independence leaders. He's still respected as an independence icon, but many people here in Zimbabwe are saying it's time to call it a day. He is 93 years old, the world's oldest head of state, and there has been increasing pressure on him to leave. However, Mr. Mugabe remains adamant. There has been a change of tone here in Zimbabwe. We saw celebrations on Saturday, people coming out to the streets to celebrate the military's intervention earlier in the week, where they took control but left Mr. Mugabe in charge, and they say this is not a coup. So send us your questions. We are live on Facebook. Ask whatever questions you would like to ask. I'll try my best to answer them. And it has been very interesting to note the change of tone even within the media here in Zimbabwe. Here are some of the papers that we've had since the morning. This is Daily News, and you can see the bold headline there: arrogant Mugabe disregards Zanu PF. Zanu PF is the ruling party which made an unprecedented decision on Sunday to recall him or to fire him as their party leader, and setting the stage then for the next process, which is the impeachment of Mr. Mugabe. That process will go to Parliament tomorrow. His party has already met and has decided that they're going to pass a vote in both houses of Parliament to impeach Mr. Mugabe. He has been given the option to resign, and they say that there will be no retribution for him and his wife if he resigns. But up until now, Mr. Mugabe remains resolute that he is the elected leader of this country, and he wants to serve until the next election, which is slated for next year. Keep your questions coming. I can see already Martha has sent a question. What is the procedure of impeachment? Well, Martha, it's quite an intricate process. Zanu PF, the ruling party, has a majority in Parliament, and so they could easily pass the vote to remove the president if they all decided to do so. However, there are concerns among the proponents of the impeachment idea that Mr. Mugabe still has loyalists who might not vote with them. And so they have also reached out to the opposition, the Movement for Democratic Change, for their support. The Movement for Democratic Change has in the past tried to impeach Mr. Mugabe unsuccessfully. So this is also a moment for them. But there is a lot of political horse trading because they would want something out of it as well. And so there's also questions of succession. And one man who is tipped to succeed Mr. Mugabe was in the papers today. This is the man, Mnangagwa. Mnangagwa bounces back. He is a former vice president who was sacked after he fell out with Grace Mugabe, the first lady, and that was interpreted as a way to push this man out of the picture so that the first lady could then succeed her husband. So political intrigues continuing in this country. I can see some more questions coming in. If it is not a coup, what is it? And that's the big question people have been asking, because the military says it has taken charge, taken control of the country, but says it is not a coup. Well, this is a political issue. The region, the African Union and the regional body SADC have been very clear that the constitution must be followed. The military is aware that they have very few friends because this is a country that has been had fallen out with the West, and so they want to keep the few friends that they have. They would not want to antagonize the regional leaders, and so they are playing it that way. Sean, you ask, is Mr. Mugabe going to step down today? Well, the answer is we do not know. He was widely expected to step down yesterday, and he didn't. Many questions coming in. Steve, you would like to know, well, George, quite an illegible name there. So I'll move on to Furhan. What is the future of Zanu PF after Mr. Mugabe? Very good question there. Well, experts are saying that this is a make or break moment for Zanu PF. this is a party that is divided, and the political crisis in the country now is partly because of the fallout within the party. And so the success of the impeachment motion that will be brought to Parliament will really determine the future of the country. Experts are saying that if they don't succeed, then that could only embolden Mr. Mugabe. Kennedy, you would like to know what will happen if he dissolves Parliament tomorrow. Quite a complicated question that would need interpretation of the law, and constitutional lawyers have been looking at the constitution, looking at Zimbabwe's laws to make sure that during this transition process the law is upheld, and that is a very tricky issue because there is a vice president here, Pelekezela Mpoko. However, he's viewed unfavorably by many people, and especially those leading this change. He was already fired from the party on Sunday, and so he stands at a very weakened position to succeed Mr. Mugabe. So the negotiation process is quite complicated in this case. Eric, you'd like to know, is Zanu PF going to allow American central banks? Well, that's a very difficult question you ask, because the American Central Bank really does not operate here. It operates in America. Ziad, is there any real concern for Mr. Mugabe to deny the decision of his own party? Mr. Mugabe's defense, as we understand it, is that the law must be followed, and he has already raised concerns about the decision by his party to remove him as their leader, saying that it goes against the constitution of the party. Andrew, you'd like to know, are there any plans for a general election after Mugabe gets replaced? That's a question that is yet to be answered. So once the impeachment process kicks off, the law will be followed. There will be an interim period where the party will then submit their nominees, and then eventually it will culminate in an election. Monica, do we know the difference between the incoming person and the outgoing person? Well, the man tipped to succeed Mr. Mugabe, Emerson Mnangagwa, to many people has been working very closely with Mr. Mugabe, and so they say that to a large extent they're really cut from the same cloth. And so questions have been raised whether this will be real change if he does succeed Mr. Mugabe. However, in terms of economic reform, some Zimbabweans believe that Mr. Mnangagwa may have some ideas that could get them out of the woods. And finally, Nathan, you say that shouldn't there be limits to the term of a president? Obviously, this is a global question, a question that many African countries are grappling with, and we're seeing more and more countries trying to extend the rule of their president, in some cases even amending the constitutions to do that. And Mr. Mugabe has been in power for 37 years. He is 93 years old, and that is part of the reason Zimbabweans say it is time to rest. Those are their words. Thank you so much for engaging with us on Facebook. It's been a pleasure.